1, 2, 3. I'm Sam Andrew. I play with Big Brother and the Holding Company. We still play. And I played with Cosmic Blues Band with Janis, Joplin, whom I loved a lot. And I played in Moby Grape for about 5 minutes sometime in the 90s. And I'm here at what was the Trident Restaurant, an incredible place where I came with Janis and members of Big Brother and members of Cosmic Blues Band and members of Moby Grape many times. And even longer ago than that, slightly, I came to Hamilton Air Force Base with my father in the family from Okinawa. So we came from Okinawa, which was a subtropical island, beautiful place. It was like Hawaii with no tourists. And we came here to Travis Air Force Base. We landed. It was very cold. We weren't ready for that. People who don't live in California think, oh, we're going to go to California, it's going to be golden beaches and bikinis and that kind of thing. They're always very surprised how cold it is. So I was at Hamilton. I went to University of San Francisco, which is a Jesuit school, and would come back here for vacations and that kind of thing. Very early on, I played in a band with John Cipollina. I played saxophone, and he played guitar, and this is really early, maybe even 1960, 61, something like that. So I was in on the Marin music scene very early. And we all moved to the city and lived there for a while. I was exposed to Haight-Ashbury because University of San Francisco is on a hill. It's on like Fulton Street in Parker. And down the hill from that is Haight-Ashbury. You know, I lived at 251 Ashbury in 1960, so I was there very early. And I just loved it around there. It was a working class neighborhood. It was real quiet. It was, nothing splashy. It wasn't North Beach. It wasn't Pacific Heights. It wasn't Russian Hill. It was just this kind of Irish Catholic African American neighborhood, and a very enjoyable place to live. A lot of schools are right around there, so it was. You had San Francisco State and UC at Parnassus, the medical school. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's my wife, Elise. And UC Medical School, San Francisco State, University of San Francisco, many schools around there. So the Haight was a student neighborhood, and a lot of young people, committed people, interesting. We were coming in on the end of the beatnik thing. So we were the junior beatniks. So they were the hipsters, the beats down in North Beach, and we came around and we were hanging around them. So we were like groupies, but that's not the word they called us. We were like hipsters. They were hipsters and we were hippies. That was what they called us, because we were trying to join this beat generation, but we were a little too young. So by the time we created our own thing, counterculture in San Francisco between 1965 and 1970, a word that was used a lot but that we never used for ourselves was hippies. So then we moved out to beautiful Marin County, where I'm sitting right now. We drove out in the car, and I was sitting next to James Gerling. We saw these young girls riding bareback on horses, and Marin was very provincial and rural at that time. You felt like, oh, this is the country. It was a summer resort from before the Golden Gate Bridge existed. The Golden Gate Bridge was built around 1937. So before that, Marin was like the summer place. So a lot of the houses had that feeling of a temporary feeling of, these beautiful summer residences that were light and only used when it was hot. So we drove out to Lagunitas, California, and it was very lovely. We drove up to Spring Road and we took a right turn, and here's this hunting lodge that looks like it was built in the time of Teddy Roosevelt or something, Victorian hunting lodge. And we moved in there and we lived, Janis Joplin had a room upstairs. Peter Albin was right next to her. James Gurley was up there. Dave Getz had a room down by the kitchen. And I came last. They all grabbed these places. And I got there last for some reason. And so I had to take this shack out in the back of the house. It turned out to be the best place because it had privacy. It was, I could paint in there. I could write songs in there all night, and not be disturbing people in the house. So they were like kind of a commune in the house proper, and I was in the shack out the back. And I wrote songs all night, and we came and we rehearsed in the morning. So we were besotted with the magic of Marin. It was just a beautiful place then. It still is. It's gentrified a lot. That's the thing. The whole world is kind of homogenized in that interval of time. We're talking about 40 years ago, I guess. And we loved Marin, and we'd get in this big car and we'd drive over White Hill and through Fairfax and San Antonio, San Rafael, go to the city and play these gigs for $250 a night, which is $50 a piece. And prices then were about 1/10 what they are now. So $50 was like $500, and we'd make that 2 or 3 times a week. So you're talking about $1,500 roughly in these terms, but nothing to spend it on. We all lived together. We pooled our food. We were our own best friends. We rehearsed all the time. So, we had a lot of money then. Maybe more money than we've had since, probably. And so lots of money in Marin. And how am I doing?
Good. Do you want a breather?
Well, yeah.
Let's just stop for a second.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. So, Janis Joplin had a house in Baltimore Canyon in Larkspur, California. And this was after she left Big Brother. And we did a little bit of Cosmic Blues there, and then it was morphing into the Full Tilt Boogie Band. And she had this Porsche that was very beautiful. It was painted by Dave Richards, who was such a good friend of mine, a really talented artist. He has a whole story himself. He comes from Hollywood royalty, and his parents were screenwriters, and big deal in Hollywood. And David was really talented. He was a great painter and a great human being. And he painted this Porsche, and he painted a guitar that I had, and he painted a motorcycle helmet that I had, and a guitar that James had. Just did a lot of that kind of thing. So Janis had this Porsche at her home, and after she had left Big Brother, I would come see her there in Larkspur. And one day I came in, there was this really nice guy there, really great guy. Right away you could tell he's not like a rock and roll person. He's very calm and courteous. And I later found out he was the son of a general, which made a lot of sense to me. My father was an officer in the Air Force. So he had those virtues like showing up on time and, being kind and courteous to people. And he was a Rhodes Scholar, and it was Chris Christopherson. And he was like such a great guy, and he was writing songs with Janis and hanging out. We'd sing country songs like Silver Threads and Golden Needles. We'd sing these tunes all night. Sometimes Bobby Newworth would come around. And then we'd go riding in Janis's Porsche, and we'd ride through San Rafael, and it was like a royal progress. I mean, she'd be going, "Hi, everybody," and they'd be waving on the corner and that. And those were such beautiful times. It was right towards the end of Janis's life. And it was a great time with her. I'm glad I had that little sort of interlude there at the end. And she came here a lot, just about at that same time. And the Trident was happening at that time. The place where we're sitting, it was unbelievable. David Crosby used to sail this wooden yacht up to the back, and he'd tie the boat up, which we might see a ferry do at some point today, and just come in. And Frank Werber owned this place, and he managed the Kingston Trio. So there was that thing that was happening in the early '60s. That's way before the rock and roll thing happened, and it was a scene then. It was a lot of jazz musicians were here. Lee Konitz was here, and Vince Guaraldi, and there was that whole beat jazz thing was happening here. Sausalito was at that time it was kind of a joke when we were in college. We would, it was like the Castro and like Polk Street. It was like a gay thing. Someone said, "Oh, you're going to Sausalito." That people forget about that. In the early '60s, there were a lot of Angora sweaters here. People who were really nice and pleasant, and so it was a way happening scene. The Trident was happening very early on, and. People started taking LSD here, and I had a friend who put drops of LSD on Nico candy wafers. You remember those? I don't know if they even make them anymore, but and then they would pass them out. They passed them out to all the help one day, So there are all these people who are on LSD are serving food to people, and they're pouring a cup of coffee, and she's going, "I love the way that liquid looks going in there, and the coffee's spilling all over the set." So it was a jumping scene, and then Janis started holding court here at the other end of the decade, and around 1968, 69, and she would sit here and just have hold court all night, and have a great time. And she'd come here with Seth Morgan, who she was engaged to, and she loved him because he could pay for everyone too. She didn't have to pick up the check all the time. And Woody Allen came here. Did you see? Was it Annie Hall? And they were Play It Again, Sam. And they were right out there. They were out on the porch, and he was out there with a lot of people, and there was a whole scene. He came here a lot. Everybody came here. It was a big deal. And so Frank Werber was engaged in all kinds of dealings. I mean, literally, he was very mercantile personality, and I think he was trapped here with many, many kilos of marijuana at one time or something, and I don't know if you can tell, but this place was just it's a work of art. A carpenter created it and just made it so beautiful, and it's so colorful, and where it is wonderful. The light is great. I can't say enough about this place. I played here in the 1990s with the Sam Andrew Band, and I had maybe 15 very beautiful women with me, and you don't have to take my word for it. I have photographs and everything, and just gorgeous people like Cheryl Little Deer, and just a lot of Kim Nomad. A lot of it was a happening scene. We played here every week, and we just had a great time. We were experimenting with 7/8 time and 5/4, and we played jazz, and I would play standards, and Kim sang "Good Morning Heartache," "Good Morning Heartache," a Billie Holiday tune, and we just had it was great. It was a great scene.
Take a breather.
Okay.
All right, doing
1, 2, 3. Well, it's true. Sausalito was kind of like the Castro and the Polk. So I just have to say, I love you, Marty Bell, and I love you, Madeline. No, I'm not kidding, man. I mean, I really love you. You were so talented. You are so talented. And we don't get to see you a lot. We think very fondly of you, staying in the same room with your dad, Joe Buchwald, and keeping that family relationship is so great. And we heard about your house and the collage you did, and it reminds me of Prairie Prince. He did this beautiful artwork in a store in San Rafael, and they just more or less papered over it, when it got a new owner. So I hear that your collage is going to go into the Marin Rock Museum. It makes me very happy. I'm glad it's not going to be lost. I'm sure it makes you happy too. And so Uncle Charlie's, we kind of covered that, about Mark Lomas doing stand-up there, which I would have loved to have seen. I'd like to hear some of those jokes later. And the Sweetwater was here. It was in Mill Valley. It wasn't far away. It's that way, kind of behind me. And we played there a few times. Sweetwater was into roots music and, you know, really nice music like that, you know. And so I think Big Brother and the Holding Company may have been a little on the loud, brash, rambunctious, sort of threadbare for them or something. You know, there wasn't that same. It wasn't Audie DeLone, let's put it that way. It wasn't even Sons of Champlin. So, but we had a lot of power, and we loved that. And a little while ago, maybe a month ago, someone sent me a photograph. It's in the National Gallery in Washington, and it was a photograph of Big Brother. It was a series of photos, and real good. And then last night or something, someone wrote to me and said, "Oh no, I was in Aroma Cafe. I was painting. I paint every morning in San Rafael, California, in Aroma Cafe. It's a lovely place. Also, similar to this, large, easy on the eyes." Someone came in there and said, "I was in London last week and I saw a photograph of you in the National Portrait Gallery in London," which is a wonderful place. I'm sure you've been there. The National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery are right next door to each other. Admission is free. Imagine that in the United States. This is one of the great museums in the world. And so we're in there, and it's an Irving Penn photograph. Irving Penn was a dean of New York fashion photography. He worked for Vogue and for many magazines, and he was excellent photographer. He published, among other books, a book called Girls in a Small Room. If you ever get a chance to find that book, look at it. Anyway, that photograph is in there, and it's now in the National Portrait Gallery in London. He took that photograph at the Sausalito Heliport, which is, if you're driving out of town right here that way, the heliport was a huge building. Obviously, it housed helicopters and that, and then bands rehearsed in there. So Irving Penn rented the building and photographed Big Brother and the Holding Company and the Grateful Dead right next to each other in a kind of a pyramid composition. Very well done, really great. And Jerry Garcia's at the top of the Dead playing his guitar, and I'm at the top of Big Brother playing mine. And it's a wonderful photograph. In this book, Worlds in a Small Room, it's easily the most conventional and ordinary photograph in the book. Well, my wife, Elisa, and I just came back from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it was so much fun. It was incredible. It was a 24-hour party. Big Brother and the Holding Company played there. The entire city was throbbing for 24 hours, as can only happen in Brazil. Think about Black Orpheus. It was that kind of scene. You go into a grocery store and someone would be doing the samba in the milk aisle, you know, because the throb was the rhythm it was really a very exciting experience. So we're doing things like that right now, Big Brother and the Holding Company. We're going to go to Atlantic City soon and play, and so that's on the Jersey coast. It's a lot of fun. Cape May all the way to Asbury Park. You know, just it's a wonderful scene there. And then we're going in October. We're going to go to Italy. So I'm trying to polish my Italian, and we have a great time. We're old men now. You know, we love going around the world. It's great. So I want to give a shout out to some other old friends of mine, Artista. I love you guys. Let me see if this fits. Does it fit? No, not good.
You gotta loosen it up in the back.
I love you, you know.